The emergency meeting of the Galactic Security Council convened in absolute secrecy aboard the massive dreadnought Eternal Vigilance. Representatives from 47 species gathered around the holographic display, showing detailed reports from the human observation missions. The data was undeniable, and it terrified every delegate present. High Admiral Corfane, Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, activated the central display. Honored delegates, we have a problem that threatens the stability of our entire civilization. The display showed a map of Earth with thousands of glowing red dots scattered across the North American continent. Each dot represented a confirmed high-level American hunter. Our intelligence teams have spent 6 months studying these creatures, Admiral Corfane continued. What we've discovered defies everything we thought we knew about sapient species development. Ambassador Zethver stepped forward. Honored Admiral, my initial reports may have understated the threat level. These Americans aren't just hunters. They represent an evolutionary apex that we've never encountered before. Explain, demanded Senator Yiltara from the Pacifist Alliance. They hunt everything, Zethver replied grimly. Land animals, marine creatures, aerial targets, and according to our latest intelligence, they're preparing to hunt in space itself. The display changed to show footage from various American hunting scenarios. Hunters in Alaska taking down massive bears. Texas hunters eliminating entire packs of dangerous wild hogs. And Florida hunters pursuing alligators in their own aquatic domain. But that's not the most concerning aspect, Admiral Corfane added. Show them the military analysis? Research Commander Yithrol approached the display. Honored delegates, we've discovered that American military forces represent the ultimate evolution of human hunting capabilities. They have created specialized hunters called snipers who can eliminate targets from distances exceeding 4 kilometers. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Furthermore, Yithrol continued, they have developed hunting techniques specifically designed for hunting other sapient species. They call it combat. Their entire military structure is based on the principle of hunting organized. Groups of enemies across any terrain, in any weather, using any available technology. The display showed American military exercises. Marines moving through urban environments, Navy SEALs operating underwater, Army Rangers infiltrating enemy positions, and Air Force paratroopers dropping from aircraft into hostile territory. They hunt in 3 dimensions, Yithrol explained. Land, sea, air, and now space. There is no environment where they cannot pursue and eliminate targets. Senator Yiltara's tentacles trembled with anxiety. Surely this is exaggerated. How dangerous could a single species be? Admiral Corfane's expression darkened. That's exactly what we need to discuss. We've been monitoring their activities, and yesterday we witnessed something that changes everything. The display shifted to show satellite footage from a remote area of Montana. Observe, Admiral Corfane commanded. The footage showed a single American human, Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson, moving through dense forest. He was armed with a standard hunting rifle and carried only basic survival equipment. The timestamp showed he had been dropped in the Wilderness 72 hours earlier as part of what the Americans called survival training. This human male was placed in a hostile environment with minimal resources, Admiral Corfane explained. Our teams monitored his activities to assess his survival capabilities. The footage showed Staff Sergeant Thompson constructing shelter, finding water, and identifying edible plants. But what impressed the alien observers was how quickly he shifted from survival mode to hunting mode. Notice how he identifies game trails within the first hour, Research Commander Yithrol pointed out. He's not just surviving, he's establishing himself as the apex predator in this ecosystem. The video fast-forwarded to show Thompson tracking a large deer through difficult terrain. His movement was fluid, silent, and purposeful. He had become one with the environment, reading signs and signals that would be invisible to most galactic species. At this point, our observation team made a critical error in judgment, Admiral Corfane admitted reluctantly. What kind of error? Asked Ambassador Zethver. We decided to test his hunting abilities directly. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Testing an unknown predator species was strictly forbidden under galactic law. We sent in a reconnaissance probe. Thinking it would be invisible to his primitive detection capabilities, Admiral Corfane continued. The probe was equipped with advanced stealth technology and operated from a distance of 2 kilometers. The display showed the reconnaissance probe, a sophisticated piece of technology that was virtually undetectable by most galactic species. It moved silently through the forest, maintaining distance from the human subject. What happened next defied all our expectations, Admiral Corfane said quietly on the screen. Staff Sergeant Thompson suddenly stopped tracking the deer. His head turned toward the probe's position with uncanny accuracy. For several minutes, he stood perfectly still, apparently listening to something the probe's sensors couldn't detect. Then he disappeared. Where did he go? Demanded Senator Yiltara. We lost visual contact for approximately 18 minutes, Admiral Corfane admitted. Our probe continued its surveillance pattern, but the human had vanished completely. The next footage showed the probe's final moments. A projectile struck it from an impossible angle, disabling its stealth systems and bringing it crashing to the ground. Moments later, Staff Sergeant Thompson emerged from concealment. He detected our probe using only his natural senses, Research Commander Yithril explained in amazement. Then he tracked it, flanked its position, and eliminated it with a projectile weapon improvised from local materials. The camera showed Thompson examining the crashed probe with obvious intelligence and curiosity. He quickly determined it was not of terrestrial origin. But here's what truly terrified our observation team, Admiral Corfane continued. Watch what he does next. On screen, Staff Sergeant Thompson began moving with entirely different behavior. His casual survival demeanor had been replaced by something far more dangerous. He was now actively hunting something new, something he understood was hunting him. He switched from prey-gathering mode to combat mode, Yithril observed. He correctly identified that he was being observed by a potential threat and adapted his behavior accordingly. The footage showed Thompson constructing concealed positions, setting up improvised warning systems, and preparing multiple escape routes. In less than an hour, he had transformed a random section of wilderness into a tactical battlefield where he held every advantage. Our backup observation team tried to retrieve the downed probe, Admiral Corfane admitted. That's when we learned why Americans are considered the ultimate predators. The display showed a squad of armored Kree soldiers moving carefully through the forest. They were equipped with advanced technology, energy weapons, and sophisticated sensing equipment. By all tactical calculations, they should have been able to easily overpower a single primitive human. Staff Sergeant Thompson had been waiting for them. The ambush was perfect. Thompson had predicted their approach route, prepared firing positions, and created overlapping fields of fire. When the Kree soldiers entered his kill zone, he systematically eliminated their equipment with precisely placed shots. He didn't kill them, Admiral Corfane noted. He could have, but instead he disabled their weapons, communications, and life support systems. Then he faded back into the forest. A psychological warfare tactic, Research Commander Yithril added grimly. He wanted survivors to report what happened. The Kree soldiers had stumbled through the wilderness for hours before finally being rescued. Their reports described an encounter with a predator that seemed to anticipate their every move, strike from impossible positions, and vanish without a trace. Gentlemen, Admiral Corfane announced, we are not dealing with a species that happens to be good at hunting. We are dealing with a species where hunting is the foundation of their entire civilization. And Americans have perfected it to a degree that makes them individually more dangerous than our elite military units. Senator Yiltara's color had shifted to pale yellow with terror. What are you recommending? Immediate diplomatic contact at the highest levels, Admiral Corfane replied, but not as equals seeking trade agreements. We need to approach them as a junior species seeking guidance from clearly superior predators. Ambassador Zethver activated his communication array. I'll contact their leadership immediately and arrange formal diplomatic protocols. Which leadership? Asked Research Commander Yithril. Our analysis indicates Americans have multiple governmental structures. All of them, Admiral Corfane decided. We can't risk offending any faction that produces hunters of this caliber. As the delegates dispersed to arrange emergency diplomatic contact, none of them noticed the small communication device that Staff Sergeant Thompson had recovered from the crashed probe. Back in Montana, he was using it to send a simple message to his commanding officer. Colonel, you're not going to believe this, but I think we just passed some kind of test. Also, we might want to call the State Department. I'm pretty sure we're about T. Dr. Sarah Chun adjusted her scope one final time as she settled into her position high in the Montana mountains. 3 miles below, completely unaware of her presence, a massive bull elk grazed peacefully in the valley. The morning air was crisp, the wind steady from the northwest at 8 miles per hour. She calculated the bullet drop, adjusted for temperature and humidity, and began controlling her breathing. What Dr. Chun didn't know was that her every movement was being watched by highly advanced sensors aboard a cloaked Kree observation vessel stationed in low Earth orbit. Fascinating, whispered Research Commander Yithrul, as he studied the human female through their enhanced surveillance equipment. Look at her positioning. She's chosen the optimal location for wind patterns, concealment, and escape routes. His assistant, Junior Observer Nextall, studied the readouts. Sir, according to our calculations, the target animal is 2.7 kilometers away. Surely she cannot be planning to kill from that distance. Keep watching, Yithrul replied grimly. Our intelligence suggests this is a typical hunting scenario for American humans. On the screen, Dr. Chun made minute adjustments to her position. She had been tracking this particular bull for 3 days, learning his patterns, his preferred routes, his feeding times. The elk was magnificent, a perfect specimen that would provide food for her family for months. But more than that, it represented the culmination of skills, passed down through generations of her family. Her grandfather had taught her to shoot. Her father had taught her to track. Her mother had taught her patience. Now, at 35 years old, she was considered one of the finest hunters in a state known for producing exceptional hunters. Target acquired, she whispered to herself. A habit from her military sniper training. Dr. Chun held 2 Ph.D. degrees in wildlife biology and had served 8 years as a Marine Corps sniper before returning to civilian life. To the Kree observers, she was just another human. To those who knew her, she represented the absolute pinnacle of American hunting evolution. She squeezed the trigger. 3 miles away, the bullet struck exactly where she had aimed. The elk dropped instantly, unaware of what had happened, aboard the observation vessel. Junior Observer Nextall's 3 hearts stopped beating for several seconds. Commander, our sensors confirm a projectile kill at 2.7 kilometers. How is that possible? Run the calculations again, Yithrul ordered, his voice tight with disbelief. Sir, I've run them 17 times. The projectile traveled at 853 meters per second, dropped 14.3 meters due to gravity, and was deflected 0.7 meters by wind resistance. The human female compensated for all variables and achieved a precision strike on a target the size of a small dinner plate. Research Commander Yithrul activated his emergency communication array. Command, we need to upgrade the threat assessment immediately. While they watched, Dr. Chun began her careful descent toward her prize. She moved through the mountainous terrain like she had been born to it, which in many ways she had. Her boots found purchase on loose scree that would have sent most galactic species tumbling to their deaths. Her breathing remained steady despite the thin mountain air that contained barely enough oxygen for most aliens to survive. Sir, Nextall reported, I'm detecting elevated heart rate and adrenaline levels, but they're within normal parameters for human physiology. She's not even breathing hard. Of course she isn't, Yithrul muttered. Persistence hunters evolved to function in low-oxygen, high-stress environments. As Dr. Chun reached her kill, she began the process that truly demonstrated human hunting mastery. With a knife that had been crafted specifically for field dressing game, she efficiently processed the animal. Every cut was precise, every movement economical. Nothing was wasted? She's consuming the liver, Nextel observed with disgust. Fresh organ meat provides immediate nutrition and prevents waste, Yithrol explained, though his own stomach churned. It's a sign of a true predator. She's not killing for sport, she's following optimal hunting protocols. What the Cree observers didn't understand was that Dr. Chun represented just one example of American hunting culture. Across the continent, millions of Americans were engaged in similar activities, each bringing their own specialized skills to the ancient art of hunting. In the swamps of Louisiana, Master Sergeant Mike Boudreau was demonstrating why American alligator hunters were considered the most fearless predator specialists. On Earth, armed with nothing but a harpoon and 30 years of experience, he was tracking a 14-foot American alligator through murky water that would hide a dozen threats. "There," he whispered to his son, pointing to a barely visible disturbance in the water. "He's been watching us for 20 minutes?" The Cree monitoring station focused their sensors on the swamp scene. "Commander," reported Observer Trinkle, "the human male is intentionally pursuing a predator that outweighs him by a factor of 3 and possesses superior aquatic mobility." "Noted in the report," Yithrol replied wearily. "Humans regularly hunt creatures more dangerous than themselves." Master Sergeant Boudreau made his move. With lightning reflexes honed by 2 tours in Afghanistan and 40 years of swamp life, he drove the harpoon into exactly the right spot. The massive alligator thrashed violently, but Boudreau held firm, using the reptile's own strength against it. "How did he know where to strike?" Nextel asked. "Anatomical knowledge," Yithrol answered. "American hunters study the biology of their prey in detail. They know exactly where every vital organ is located." In Alaska, Tom Henderson was demonstrating an entirely different set of hunting skills. The temperature was negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and he was tracking a massive brown bear through snow that came up to his waist. He had been following the bear's trail for 6 hours, reading the story written in tracks, scat, and disturbed vegetation. "Sir," reported Observer Kethmel from the Arctic Monitoring Post, "the human male is pursuing a creature that our database indicates is capable of running at 45 kilometers per hour and has enough strength to decapitate most galactic species with a single blow, and he's doing it alone. In subarctic conditions that would kill most of our species in minutes," Yithrol added. "The Americans seem to view extreme environments as normal hunting conditions." Tom Henderson wasn't just any hunter. He was a third-generation Alaskan guide who had spent his entire life in some of the most hostile terrain on Earth. His grandfather had hunted with native Alaskan tribes, learning techniques that had been perfected over thousands of years. His father had been a wilderness survival instructor for the U.S. military. Tom himself had combined traditional knowledge with modern technology to become one of the most successful big-game hunters. In North America, the bear's tracks led to a dense thicket where visibility was limited to a few feet. Any reasonable creature would have given up the pursuit or called for backup. Tom Henderson saw it as a normal Tuesday. He moved through the brush with the patience of a saint and the awareness of a combat veteran. Every step was calculated, every breath controlled. When he finally spotted the bear, it was resting in a clearing 50 yards away. One shot from his rifle ended the hunt cleanly and humanely. "Remarkable," observed Kethmel. The human male tracked a highly dangerous predator through hostile terrain in extreme weather conditions, and achieved a clean kill with a single projectile from an improvised firing position. Meanwhile, in Texas, ranch manager Carlos Mendez was dealing with a problem that illustrated another aspect of American hunting culture. A pack of feral hogs had been destroying crops across 3 counties. These weren't cute farm pigs. These were massive, intelligent, and aggressive wild boars that had been terrorizing rural communities. Carlos approached the problem with typical American ingenuity. He studied the hogs' behavior patterns, identified their travel routes, and set up an ambush position near their water source. He was armed with a semi-automatic rifle and had night vision equipment that turned darkness into an advantage. The human is intentionally confronting Multiple dangerous targets simultaneously, reported observer Vashatin from the Texas monitoring station. And he's doing it at night, which provides him with a tactical advantage, Yithril noted. Americans have weaponized darkness itself. Carlos waited for 3 hours in perfect silence. When the hogs finally appeared, he systematically eliminated 7 of them in under 30 seconds. Each shot was precisely placed, each movement fluid and controlled. It was a masterpiece of tactical shooting that would have impressed any military sniper in the galaxy. The Kree observation teams were beginning to understand that they weren't just watching random humans hunt. They were observing a culture that had elevated hunting to an art form that combined ancient skills with cutting-edge technology. Back aboard the main observation vessel, Research Commander Yithril compiled his reports with growing concern. The data was undeniable. American humans demonstrated hunting skills that exceeded anything in the galactic database. Sir, Nextel reported, I've analyzed hundreds of hunting scenarios across the North American continent today alone. The success rate is 94%. The average human hunter demonstrates skills that would qualify them as elite military specialists in any known galactic military force. And these are considered recreational activities, Yithril added grimly. What were... The Galactic Council chamber hummed with nervous energy as ambassador Zethver of the Kree Empire stood before the assembled delegates. His 4 eyes darted between the various species representatives, each more agitated than the last. The emergency session had been called after disturbing reports from the third spiral arm of the galaxy. Honored delegates, Zethver began, his translator device converting his clicks and whistles into the common tongue. We have a problem with the newly discovered species from the planet they call Earth. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The humans had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel and made first contact 6 months ago. Most species took centuries to develop beyond their home systems. These humans had done it in mere decades after splitting the atom. What sort of problem? Asked Representative Quintal from the Peaceful Federation of Worlds. Her tentacles swayed with curiosity. Are they attempting to claim territory? Demanding resources? Most primitive species do this when they first achieve spaceflight. Zethver's mandibles clicked nervously. No, respected Quintal. The problem is ... different. We may have made an error in our initial assessment of their species classification. The chamber fell silent. Species classification was serious business in the Galactic Council. Each new species was carefully studied and categorized based on their biology, culture, and evolutionary background. The humans had been classified as omnivore gatherers with limited territorial tendencies based on their farming communities and cities. Explain, commanded High Adjudicator Vorthmak, his crystalline form pulsing with authority. Our survey teams have discovered that we completely misunderstood their nature, Zethver continued. The humans are not merely omnivore gatherers. They are persistence hunters, active predators. The most successful predator species we have ever encountered. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. In the known galaxy, there were only 3 species classified as persistence hunters, and all of them were considered extremely dangerous. The Kree Empire had learned this the hard way when they first encountered the Vorthek pack hunters 3 centuries ago. Impossible, scoffed Ambassador Refinal of the Traitor Consortium. We observed their cities. They keep other animals as companions, not food. They grow plants and organize formations. These are clearly the behaviors of agricultural gatherers. Zethver activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images began cycling through scenes from Earth. We thought the same thing. But look at this. The first image showed a human male in strange coverings moving silently through a forest. He carried a long stick with string attached. In the next sequence, he was following tracks in the mud, his eyes scanning the ground with intense focus. This is what they call hunting, Zethver explained. We initially thought it was a primitive method of food gathering practiced by a small minority. But further investigation revealed something disturbing. The images changed to show groups of humans in different environments. Some moved through snow-covered mountains, others through dense jungles, and still others across vast grasslands. All of them were tracking, pursuing, or capturing other animals. They hunt in every environment on their planet, Zethver continued. Ice, desert, forest, mountains, swamps, even in their oceans. They have developed specialized tools and techniques for each environment. And here's the most disturbing part. The display showed human children, no more than juveniles, practicing with small versions of hunting tools. They begin training their young from an early age. What we mistook for games are actually hunting skill development exercises. Ambassador Rithanol's skin changed to a pale blue, indicating distress in his species. But they seemed so peaceful. They offered to share their cultural knowledge with us. They brought gifts. That's another concerning trait, Zethver replied. Many pack hunters are highly social with their own kind while remaining deadly to their prey. The humans demonstrate what their researchers call pack bonding. They form intense social connections not only with their own species, but with other species as well. The display showed images of humans interacting with various animals on their planet. They have domesticated numerous other species, bending them to their will through what they call selective breeding over thousands of generations. They have modified the behavior and even physical characteristics of other creatures to serve their purposes. High Adjudicator Vorthmak's crystalline form flashed red with alarm. They modify other species? That's what the Vorthak did before we contained them. Yes, but the humans are far more sophisticated, Zethver continued. Where the Vorthak used crude genetic manipulation, the humans achieved the same results through patience and intelligence. They took wolves, apex predators in their own right, and turned them into creatures called dogs that are completely loyal to humans. They made these predators into hunting partners. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Several delegates began activating their emergency communication devices. Zethver raised his upper arms for silence. There's more. Our cultural exchange teams have discovered that humans have detailed knowledge of anatomy, tracking, camouflage, and stalking techniques that they freely share in what they call educational systems. Every human child learns basic hunting principles. What are you suggesting? Asked Representative Quintal, her tentacles now perfectly still with fear. I'm suggesting we completely misclassified them. They're not omnivore gatherers at all. They are apex persistence hunters who have developed agriculture and civilization while maintaining their predatory nature. In fact, their civilization seems to have made them better hunters, not worse. The display changed to show modern human hunting equipment, advanced optical devices, projectile weapons with incredible precision, and transportation vehicles designed for pursuit in any terrain. They have mechanized their hunting, Zethver explained. They use advanced technology to enhance their natural predatory abilities. Some of their weapons can eliminate targets from distances that exceed the visual range of most species in this chamber. High Adjudicator Vorthmak's form pulsed rapidly. What is their population? Approximately 8 billion individuals across their planet. The silence that followed was deafening. 8 billion persistence hunters with advanced technology and a proven ability to modify other species to serve their purposes. Have they shown any aggressive tendencies toward other sapient species? Asked Ambassador Rithanol quietly. Not yet, Zethver replied. But we need to understand what we're dealing with. Our xenobiologists have analyzed their physiology more carefully. They have forward-facing eyes for depth perception, enhanced by excellent long-distance vision. Their hands are designed for tool use and weapon manipulation. Their bodies are built for endurance running. They can pursue prey for hours without stopping. The display showed a human marathon race, with thousands of participants running incredible distances without apparent distress. They compete in endurance events for entertainment, Zethver continued. What they consider recreational activity would be impossible for most of our species. They are pursuit predators who never give up once they select a target. Representative Quintal's color had shifted to deep purple with anxiety. What do our behavioral specialists say about their psychological profiles? That's perhaps the most concerning aspect, Zethver replied grimly. They demonstrate what their own researchers call persistence hunting psychology. Once they set a goal, they rarely abandon it. They have a saying, failure is not an option. Their entire culture reinforces the idea that obstacles exist to be overcome, not avoided. The display showed human space missions, mountain climbing expeditions, and deep ocean exploration. They actively seek out dangerous, hostile environments for the challenge. They call it adventure. What we consider uninhabitable death zones, they consider interesting vacation destinations. Ambassador Rathanel stood slowly. Honored delegates, I move that we immediately reclassify the human species and place them under careful observation. If they are truly persistence hunters with 8 billion individuals and advanced technology. Seconded? Several voices called out simultaneously. High Adjudicator. Vorthmak S. form flashed decisively. The motion is approved. Ambassador Zethver, prepare a detailed report on human hunting capabilities. And send a message to our embassy team on Earth. Tell them to be very, very careful about what they share regarding our own biology and planetary locations. Already done, High Adjudicator. But sir, there's one more thing. The chamber waited. According to our cultural analysis, there are significant variations in hunting cultures across different regions of their planet. Some human populations appear to be far more skilled hunters than others. We're still investigating, but initial reports suggest that one particular region has produced the most dangerous hunters their species has ever seen. Which region? Zethver's 4 eyes dimmed with concern. They call it America. The emergency session continued late into the galactic night cycle, as delegates struggled to understand what they had unknowingly invited into their peaceful corner of the galaxy. Little did they know that their careful observations were about to reveal hunting skills that would terrify even the most predatory species in the known universe. As the session ended and Deleg,